Let's see. Okay, so we are recording now. Just wanted to make sure. Now, let me just tell you, the purpose of this roundtable is so that those of you who are students will have an opportunity to connect with your director and connect with an alum who is also on this Zoom meeting. So you can ask any kind of questions that you may have regarding this psychology program that you are currently in. So if you have questions regarding maybe some tips to help you get through the program, we have an alum here. We also have the director here. So they'll be able to answer your questions. And I'm with Alumni Relations. Once again, I'm Dr. Renee Dorn, and I also have with me my assistant, Ms. Sophia Henriquez.
Everyone, nice to meet everyone.
And I mentioned that we have the director of the online psychology programs with us, and that's Dr. Natasha Thipar Olmos, Dr. T.O. And we also have a recent alum, a graduate from the MA in Psychology online program, and that's Marie Lawrence Stopford. All right, so right now I'll go ahead and have Dr. T.O. go ahead and tell us a little bit about the Psychology Online program and tell you the things that are going on within the program and maybe some upcoming things that you may not know about.
Thank you, Dr. Dorn. As Dr. Dorn explained, I'm the director of the online psych programs. I also wanted to briefly mention we're joined by one of our student success advisors today, Leah Murray. So glad that she could join. She works with the other student advisors who provide academic advising to students throughout their program. So we're here to talk about the online Master's in Psychology program. Some of you may be aware that the Graduate School of Education in Psychology also offers all 3 master's programs in psychology in a traditional face-to-face format. So the curriculum for the online Master's in Psychology program is the same as that of the corresponding on-campus Master's in Psychology program. There are only 2 courses that are different between the 2 programs, but essentially the goal of the online Master's in Psychology program is to give you a broad-based understanding of fundamental principles of human behavior through a clinical lens that would prepare you for a range of possible outcomes. So including but not limited to further doctoral study in psychology or a related field, advancement within your existing field, as psychology and psychological principles are really useful and applicable across a range of careers. It is also can be a gateway or a stepping stone for a career in industrial organizational psychology, human resources, other types of community-based or nonprofit work, and even government or policy work. So the program is different from our Master's in Clinical Psychology program, or also known as the MFT program, in that the online Master's in Psychology program does not directly prepare students for a path of licensure. So the general Master's is really intended to, like I said, advance your current skills or your current career path, or set you up to pursue further study. I've had MAP alums who I've taught over the years who have gone on to doctoral study in psychology, have gone on to law school, have started the program while working in law enforcement, and the degree helped them advance within their current employer system. Some have gone on to be consultants, kind of a range of outcomes. And so that's kind of an overview of the degree. We estimate it's roughly 2 years to complete if you're taking approximately 2 courses per term. And there is a lot of course overlap between our Master's in Clinical Psychology, which is the clinical degree, and the Master's in Psychology. But there are some courses that are unique to just the online Master's program. So maybe I can pause there and see if there's any questions so far before I talk about some upcoming additions or enhancements to our program.
Okay, great. Now at this time, Does anyone have any questions for the director regarding just the overview of the program? Yes, Sally, go right ahead.
I thought there were only two routes, the LMFT and the MAP. So now I'm confused. You said there are three?
There are. We also have the Masters of Science in Applied Behavior Analysis. Is
Oh,
also
so is that like
formerly
the BCBA?
exactly. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So it was actually has been called the Masters of Science in Behavioral Psychology. Starting with the fall term, the name is changing to the Masters of Science in Applied Behavior Analysis. So they're both synonymous. But that's the third program that I was referring to.
Right. Any other questions for the director at this point, just as an overview for the program? No? Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Tia, you can continue. Yes.
Okay, sure. In terms of this upcoming year, the couple things I want to highlight, I think one of the really unique benefits of the Master's in Psychology program, but something that can also sometimes be a source of some consternation for students is just that there are so many different ways you can use it. And so as a program, we have been working on trying to work with our admissions teams and our student success teams to really beef up the kinds of information that we provide students at the get-go so that you're more informed about what your options are. The interesting thing about psychology as a field, and this is true from when I was in grad school, which is quite a while ago now, is there's a little bit of mystery around the very many things you can do with a degree. And even in the public parlance, I think sometimes people don't quite know the difference between a therapist and a counselor and a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And so I think that as a program, we're trying to get better at providing more of that information on the website, as well as equipping all of our student advisors and admissions counselors with more detailed talking points. And so that's something that we are continually working on. We really want to try to demystify the field for our students who are coming in, and not only for your benefit, but also so you can be participants in educating the public about what psychology is and what you can do with your degree. And then the other initiative that I'm really excited about this year is we are going to be expanding our peer mentorship program from the MFT program to also include the MAP program and the MSABA program. So last year, in the academic 2019-2020 academic year, we piloted a peer mentorship program where we paired advanced MFT students with incoming or early term MFT students. And we had a group of about 15 mentors, and we kind of created this program, and we gathered some data at the end, and resoundingly the students, both the mentors and the mentees, found it to be very helpful. And so in this upcoming year, we're actually going to be making it available to all 3 degree programs. And so we're also really hoping that that will continue to foster more community and support and connection for our students to learn from each other. There's only student success advisors and your faculty can certainly, of course, are resources for you, but I also know that it's invaluable to have the perspective of students who have gone ahead of you, and have just the student perspective is so important and different. So we're super excited about that. I've been staffing up in my team to try to support the growth of the mentorship program. So that's going to be starting this year, and we're very much looking forward to that.
Now that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, how many student mentors or peers are you trying to get together for this student mentorship program?
So we had about 15 mentors who participated in our program last year. Leah and her student success advising colleagues have been assisting us with compiling lists of our advanced students who meet the criteria to even be considered as a mentor. So you have to be in the program
Okay.
for a certain number of terms. You have to have a certain academic GPA that you've maintained over time. And then we have an application and interview process. So I'm really not sure what to expect. I'm hoping that we'll have all together across all 3 degree programs, at least 30 or 40 would be really nice if we had that many mentors. mentors, and we can try to pair them with 1, 2, or maybe at the most 3 students each. But we'll just kind of have to see. We're just in the process of soliciting applications for mentors for the upcoming year.
Now, how soon are you looking to, I guess, collect these applications, since you said you're just starting to get them out?
Yeah, I have a draft email in my Gmail today that I am intending to send out to our potential mentors, and we usually accept applications for about a week and a half, and then we start interviews.
Okay. Now, if someone wants to get a mentor, or if someone feels that they need mentoring, how do they reach out to you, or do they fill out a form, or talk to the student success people? How does that work?
So my team will be sending out an invitation to all online psychology students, all 3 programs, all years, in late September, to solicit interest for being paired with a mentor. So if anyone here is thinking that you might want to be paired with a mentor, keep an eye out for an email from me, probably towards the second half of the month of September. And we usually kick off the program about mid-October, once everybody's gotten their classes all sorted out and solidified for the fall term.
Okay, that sounds great. So far at this point, does anyone else have any questions regarding this mentor-mentee program? Yes.
I just think that's really exciting. I'm a student ambassador for Pepperdine, and I always wondered what it would be like to take a step further, because I get so excited in those panels, talking to prospective students and just being in their shoes and just feeling that glimmer when I got my acceptance. And I don't know how you're choosing the mentors, but I would absolutely love to be a part of it. Just being a part of the student experience, it's just empowering and enlightening, and I just would love to keep giving. So I'm glad that you've extended this to the MAP. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Talk to your student success advisor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Anything else, Dr. Tio? Anything else coming up?
I think those are the highlights. We, as everyone, are also just trying to kind of keep pace with all the changes happening with COVID, and trying to do our best to support our faculty and students. And so, I think those are the 2 main initiatives. The other thing I will mention is that, starting in about May, when the uprisings and started across the country after the killing of George Floyd, in the psychology division and GSEP wide, we've been having conversations about how to review our syllabi, how to review our teaching training, our teaching practices, to better equip faculty and students to become advocates, and to be able to address issues of racism, oppression, marginalization, and other forms of injustice. And so that's kind of an ongoing project. I'm collaborating with the other program directors to take part in a syllabus review process. We're also going to be hiring some new full-time faculty positions for the online programs, and one of my goals is that we would have some of those new faculty members kind of take the lead on really enacting some change in response to what's been going on this summer. So, at this point, I don't have anything concrete other than that, but I do, I guess, want to mention that is certainly a priority, and we're definitely focused on action and concrete action that can be taken to benefit our students and our faculty.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Tio.
Of course.
All right. So we also have an alum with us, and that is Marie. And Marie, why don't you just go ahead and take yourself off mute? And then just first of all, let us know when you graduated, and tell us a little bit about what you have been doing since you graduated.
So, hi everybody. And so I graduated, can I say last month? Yes, last month. It feels like an eternity ago now, but yes, it was last month. And I'm actually sad because I don't have any more classes. So I came to the program without any psychology background, coming from the business world, from finance actually. And what I'm doing today is to look at options to change careers. And there's a variety of options, but the reason why I'm going into this is thanks to the program, actually. I started a program thinking I would just learn a little bit more about myself and what I can do. And then 2 years after, I think I can make a career out of this. So I'm exploring.
Very, very nice. Very, very nice. So let me ask you, Marie. So you said you have a background in finance. So why psychology? What about psychology made you interested in actually taking classes or wanting to get a degree?
Yeah, because there's taking classes, a certification, and taking a degree. There's a variety in there.
Right.
So there's a couple of reasons. One is mostly professional. I think I came to my career, so I'm a finance director, and I came to that point where a lot of what I do is actually interacting with people rather than modeling on Excel by myself. And then there's a gap everywhere in every company pretty much that would marry the data side of business and the interpersonal relationship side of it. So we tend to be very good at our technical, and then we're not so good sometimes at just explaining what we're trying to do, getting people on board, literally meeting your audience where they are at, which is one of the principles of psychology and also of the clinical field. Even though this is not a clinical degree, you totally applicable to all the areas of your life. And there's a gap in organizations today, and to make teams and organization healthier, I think we need to bridge these gaps. And so that was the reason why I was more interested in looking into interpersonal relationships and what could I do to lift people up to, just go over conflicts or creating buy-ins around like business propositions, for instance. And then second reason is we were going through a period of change on a personal level, and so I wanted to just I was in that phase of thinking what I wanted to be following that incident. And so I needed to create a little bit of awareness of who I am and what I wanted to be. And that program is helped me so much understanding myself. So that's why I went into a program.
So let me also ask you now, when you first started the program, what were your expectations? And now that you've finished, how do you see those expectations? Was it everything that you expected, everything that you wanted? Was it some things that happened that you didn't expect to happen throughout the program?
So I came in there. So this is my not my first master's. And so I knew there would be some work, and that would not be a certification, just a superficial. So I knew there would be some work. I came with the expectation that, I can do technical things. How hard can it be? And which is incredibly naive from me. And it was a big lesson of humility and introspection for me, for sure. I started thinking, well, an online degree, how does that work? Right. So my two previous masters were on campus, so I was a little bit worried that I would be self-pacing and being by myself, and I'm left to do whatever I want when I want. And that also was a big discovery for me. So I came with a bit of question mark on how the format would work, and knowing that it would be hard. And then I came out after 2 years realizing that it was hard, but it's also hard because the more you put in it, the more you get out of it. Right. So you have the choice of taking one class every quarter, or but I wanted to do all the homework. I wanted to do it well. I did my own research. So yes, you also have the choice to dial in or out some of the extra you would want to do as a support for your own learning. And then I was very positively surprised by the online format. I thought we would be secondary format to the on-site. We have the same quality material, the same quality deliverables, the same expectations of performance. We have access to the whole faculty as well. So it's not like teachers that are dedicated to the online program and some dedicated on site. I mean, some of my professors have also taught on campus. That access was phenomenal. I was not expecting this. And you can actually have a lot of interactions with your fellow classmates. So it's not a completely by yourself and abandoned behind your computer. It's actually, you can make it a very social, a social experience too. I mean, we created study groups outside. We keep in touch now that we're graduating. I mean, you'll form some, you'll see some of the faces in every classes, and it's extremely helpful.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Well, thank you, Marie. Now, I'm going to put Leah on the spot because you're with your student success advisor. So how do you help the students?
Oh, wow. That's my favorite part of my job, to be honest. So I'm fortunate enough, I get to build relationships with students and really get to talk with them throughout their time in the program so that we can, one, help them with their goals, help them vocalize their goals so they can stay on top of them throughout their time in the program, term by term, and also help serve as a resource should anything arise. You know, life happens, we're all humans here, and so should an issue arise or something impact a student's time in the program, we're here as a resource, as a sounding board to help them work through what that might mean for them during their time here, so that we can kind of aid in that process as they work through any barriers that might arise.
Wonderful. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. Wonderful. So now we have an opportunity for the students to just open up, ask any questions that you may have regarding your program, regarding some classes, regarding how to get through some of the classes, maybe if there are particular classes that you may be struggling with, or if you're new to this, do you have any questions on what you may need to do in order to get past this upcoming session or to get to graduation? So this part is for you. So if anyone has any questions, this is your time to go ahead and ask questions. Yes, yes.
I know maybe this isn't like big, but something that crosses my mind is, especially right now, like money can be tight and textbooks can cost a lot of money. And I actually know a website that I've gotten probably about 90% of my textbooks on there for free. And every time I like try and introduce this to another student or someone in my class, they can't believe it exists. And then I think about how many other students don't know exists, and just the fact that a lot of our books that we use, even the exact editions, are available. Like on one particular website, I mean, I can paste it in the chat, but I think like resources like that are super important because like before that, I can't believe how much I was spending on a semester on textbooks, and just having like a PDF. And I know like a lot of people like to do things electronically these days anyway. And like there's certain apps that can help with the highlighting and the taking notes feature, especially with that. So I think resources like that can be really important.
No, that is good. That's good to know. Let me ask Dr. Tio or Marie or Leah, are there any resources that the students have available to them that you could talk about, or maybe Marie, that you had used in order to help you with your classes or to get through the program?
In terms of getting the books and reduce the cost, or just access to materials in general?
Just access to materials in general, or yeah, or any.
So for the
helping.
books,
Mm-hmm.
so for the textbooks, I think there's a number of sites where you can rent them or have them secondhand, which it's perfect to help. And in terms of other resources, we've got access to the Pepperdine library, which is incredible in terms of resources. I mean, all of your research and extra questions. This was like my Google of the program, and please use these. And the things that I've discovered, maybe the second year, I wish I had asked the question before, is that for some courses or all of them, they create like info guides already on the library. So I was going into the library, the search box, and looking at at the topic, and then suddenly getting overwhelmed by the number of hits. But then there are info guides that just direct you to the sources that are more important. So it's more targeted, but the variety of the information you get through these, I think this one, and then there are a number of sources where you can have your textbook a little bit cheaper. And for a few of them that I knew, there were some classes that I knew I would take as introductory class, and I only bought the materials or the textbooks when I knew that that would be a reference material that I would keep past the program. For the rest, you have options to rent and return at the end to save on costs as well.
Okay, wonderful. Any other resources that would possibly be available to the students besides buying books or in the library? Any other resources?
I can definitely speak to some. I know that is like that's something we really strive to highlight as student success advisors, and there honestly a lot. It'd almost be tough to cover them all, but a few that come to mind include the Writing Center. This can certainly be a writing heavy program, and they really want to help students. They have webinars that students can attend, and they also record those webinars so you can watch them. So the Writing Center is one I'll definitely highlight. The Accessibility Office, I will also highlight should any students need accommodations. We always want students to be aware of that office. Those are the two that really come to mind for me. I'll also just note that when students are new to the program, we provide them with a welcome packet, and there's a list of suggested textbook vendors. So it sounds like we have some updating to do for that list. So thanks for making us aware.
Oh, can I add also a couple of things as you were talking about the resources? One, there's Grammarly. Please use this because a lot of your grades and your papers will depend on the quality of your writing, and it is so easy to not spend time on double checking the spelling of the grammar. And they are actually, for having used it extensively for 2 years, they are really good. So please use that, and we have access to this with no cost. There's also a number of other resources that you have as a student. I believe you can have like your Microsoft Office subscription at a student rate. So I think it's somewhere, I don't remember that was collated anywhere, but it's just by talking to other students that we were sharing some tips as to what was found where. But this is also something that add up to the cost and the struggle if you don't even have the software or the time for these. They're very helpful.
The only other thing I'll add is career services and / career success. So, I as a faculty member, I don't think it's ever too early to start thinking about your career options. So, regardless of where you are in your program, I think that we have virtual career counseling that's available to students, and then there's a virtual career center, which is housed in Atrio, the learning management system, and that's another kind of area where we're really working hard to beef up our offerings and support to students, especially as we now have proud alums out in the world. So that's another set of resources for students.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now I want to ask the students individually if you have any questions. I know, Sally, you had a couple of questions earlier. Do you have any questions about maybe the classes that you're currently taking, or you have any issues that you may want to be able to discuss with student success or our director or our alum? Any questions that you may have? Oh, yes. Okay, go right ahead.
So yeah, I'm about to start my second half of the program. I think it's MAP, the Clinical Psychology Masters, or yeah. I know I don't want to be a BCBA or just do LMFT. So I'm in the third option. And so I'm wondering, you know, of course, research and books and writing, this is my strength. This is my second master's, and I was an English teacher, so I'm okay with that. But I'm sort of wondering, okay, what is it going to look like toward the end? Because I know my practicum for teaching was really intense and almost you know, caught me off guard. It was a year of full-time teaching, and then we had 2 classes every semester, so that was a lot. So yeah, what's in store for me in the second half of the MAP program, and like what does the practicum sort of look like? I'm kind of interested in being a research psychologist, maybe going, PsyD was my original plan if I could get accepted into a PsyD program. So what does that look like for me? Does anyone know?
Just to clarify, so when you say practicum, are you in the MACLP program where you would take 661 like pre-practicum, or?
No. That's what I don't know.
Okay.
I guess I don't know. I know I'm not trying to be an LMFT.
Okay.
I was trying to get like the general psychology
Okay.
degree.
Okay. So there is no practicum for that program. The general master's in psychology does not have a practicum component. And so in general, like the second half will look like more advanced classes, more advanced coursework. ML could probably speak more specifically to that than I can. She's actually gone through the program recently. So maybe I'll let her elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's why I was on. Thank you for clarifying. There's no practicum. I was like you, I was wondering. So now, when do I talk to actual people about that? There's no practicum, so it will be, the classes are more advanced in terms of the requirements. So the requirement and the type of work that they make you do. So I would say that the first half is really introductions to basics of psychology, basics, the foundational elements of psychology. In the second half, you would have, I mean, some of the courses are really intense in terms of work. So we had one for, I think it was a family counseling one, where we had to find, actually, you will have a few classes in the second half where you have to find your own volunteers and then administer tests or an intake interview as practice, and then write a report. So these reports are not just for just report purposes. Those are expected reports that a clinician will have to write, but because you're not a training to be a clinician, you will still go through the process of understanding this test, talking to actually real people that are not in the program, or your teachers or your colleagues. And you'll have a lot more of these, and a lot more of these write a report on, or a 10-page paper on a particular aspect of, or a particular, I took psychopharm for the last one. So particular, you had a patient with a particular profile of pathology, and then a particular list of medication, and you had to write a report on what you think this medication would be there for, and if there was any issue. So it's a little bit more intense and probably a little bit more applied, but it's not a practicum. It gets you a flavor for it, though.
Okay, so that's interesting. So if I move to a new area and I don't really know anybody to ask, I could probably go to the local community college or ask neighbors if they'd be willing. I don't know. I live in a migrant community, so they may not be willing to be interviewed out of immigration fears. But
so on that specifically, you will have some requirements. So for that particular class, since I mentioned this one, that gave me anxiety. I was like thinking, and where am I going to find these people? And then the weeks were ticking in, and I still don't have my volunteers. I think so. They give you some restrictions, so it's not a family member. So you and then you have one that is a family, so you needed to find somebody who is in a committed relationship, because you had to provide a questionnaire on their marital relationship. So what I ended up doing was actually talking to one of my classmates, and then they had a couple of friends that was volunteering. So I literally talked to them before, explained if they wanted to be interviewed, and then we actually did it on Zoom, and they were in a different state. So there's no requirement that is near you, and I think with the current climate, you probably will have to talk to these people through Zoom anyway, so that'll probably enlarge your experience. But I remember the teacher at the time, even it was Dr. Shipley, even I talked to her and say, do you have any spare volunteers for me? But you talk to your classmates if you're running out of ideas. There's always somebody who will be able to help.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions? Elisa or Tiffany? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Go right ahead.
I just want to say, like, I too was also skeptical going into an online program because I was very used to like the hands-on aspect, especially in school. But one of the things that I really appreciate, I'm grateful for this program, is our ability to still work closely with faculty members and professors. Like, for example, being a part of a pilot program for multicultural competency with Dr. Jem Powell and Dr. Casanata Sound. It's still going on, and we meet every 2 weeks, and that's something that has surpassed my knowledge about multiculturalism, and it just gives you the vibe that you can still take your education further despite being in an online format. And also, like, I'm applying to PhD programs this year, and I want to improve the research on my resume as much as I can. And just knowing that we can work with faculty members on their research. Like Dr. Powell needed some students to work on some research she's doing for multiculturalism, and just having the opportunity to be able to be a part of a research lab and go to conferences and look for conferences and work on that. Like, we have the ability to do that despite the fact that we're in an online program. And I wonder if a lot of students know that, if they know that if they build a rapport with their professor, that they can open themselves up to these opportunities, especially if they're applying to doctorate programs, because not having that stuff on their resume can hinder it, especially as far as research experience goes. So it's just something I'm grateful for, having the opportunity to just be able to engage in these extracurricular activities and research opportunities. And I didn't really think that was possible because it's an online format. So yeah.
Now, how far are you in your program right now?
I graduate in May.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. All right.
And I also appreciate that the flexibility of being able to go from full-time to half-time, because I needed a little extra time to get all my stuff ready to apply to doctorate programs.
Yes.
So I didn't want to be stuck paying student loans for 6 months after the 6 months I would be graduated. So I was able to just kind of go to half-time, take my time, spend some time studying for the GRE and the time I would spend with that second class, and being able to put that extra time into the research opportunities and the multicultural group and any other extracurriculars. So the flexibility is extremely important too.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Let me ask Dr. Teo, how important is it for students to participate in research opportunities?
It really depends on what your end goal is in terms of career. So, if you're interested in a doctorate in psychology, even there you have multiple options. You can pursue a Doctor of Psychology, which is a PsyD. You can pursue a PhD, which is a Doctor of Philosophy. PsyD programs tend to be more clinically oriented, therefore getting research experience is not as critical. PhD programs in psychology tend to be more research oriented. And so in general, research experience is more important, but even within the spectrum of PhD programs, some are much more research oriented than others. And so this is part of what I was referring to at the beginning of sort of the mystery in the field, is that there's a lot of these kinds of differentiators that really determine what your best, what you should be spending your time on as a master's student. So I always recommend students purchase, if they're really serious about doctoral study in psychology, there's a publication, it's called The Insider's Guide to Graduate Programs in Clinical and Counseling Psychology. You can Google it, it's on Amazon. Now that I'm saying it, Leah, we might want to add that to a resource list for MAP students coming in. It kind of breaks down, when I went to grad school, it was only the United States, but maybe now they have international programs, but breaks down every single doctorate program in the United States in clinical or counseling psych, and tells you, like, here's how much clinical emphasis, here's how much research emphasis. And, that really, I think, helps you then figure out how critical research experience is for you. The course in our program that is most geared towards that kind of academic work is going to be Sci 692, which is scientific writing in psychology, where you write a grant proposal. That alone is not sufficient research experience, but I'm highlighting that because as you think about your course trajectory, that course will kind of equip you with more of the scientific writing aspect of it.
Okay.
And that might be a good time for you to think about pursuing research opportunities if you haven't already by then, if indeed a research focused doctoral program is something that you want to go for.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's very good to know. Thank you for that information.
Sure.
So any other questions that you may have for any of the students? Do you have any? Oh, yes.
Hi. So I'm currently at a career crossroads. And so I switched into the Masters of Psychology program. Kind of torn right now if that was the best choice in terms of career-wise. So what would be your best advice in terms of mentoring, like career, I guess, counseling? Is there any type of anybody that I can contact?
The first resource that comes to mind is Career Services. So I
Okay.
don't know if you've reached out to them yet, but they work with our students on campus and online, and are familiar with the landscape of career and can provide you with some advising on I think I'm hearing two questions. Maybe one is like, is my current degree program the best fit for me? And then also what career might be the best fit for me, right? They're related, but they're slightly separate. I think that another resource for you might be faculty. So if there's a faculty member whose career either resembles what you want to do, or just somebody that you feel comfortable with and had a good experience and feel like you can learn from. Our faculty are really diverse, and so I would also encourage you to reach out to your faculty and ask if they'd be willing to email or meet with you to just talk about that a little further. And then finally, your student success advisor might be able to point you in additional directions if the previous two resources don't cover the concerns or the questions adequately.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Wonderful. That was a good question. Good question. Anything else regarding classes, career, help for graduation, research? Oh, yes.
Okay. So to go back to Tiffany's question, you can also go on Pep Connect. There's a section on there for mentoring, and you can ask any alum that's on that platform if they'd be willing to be your mentor, and then you could talk to them on there as well. And there's also a feed if you want to post any questions that you may have. That's a really great resource for you.
Thank you.
Good suggestion. Yes. Any other questions that anyone may have regarding classes, career, research, papers, resources, anything? We just want to make sure that you have the opportunity to ask your questions while you have people here that can help answer those questions. Yes.
Okay, I guess I'll ask this. It's more of a personal question, so now that you're extending to all questions.
Oh, yes.
So I want to teach. I want to be a professor, and I want to do my own research. And I'm looking into PhD programs for that. But I was recently told about the option of like a counseling psychology PhD program, and I heard that was a little bit more oriented towards like culture, and you can get into that a little bit more. But I also heard that there's restrictions between like the clinical psychology and what you can do with those jobs and as opposed to the counseling psychology PhD. And I've just been thinking about that a little bit more before I make like my decision on the programs that I apply to, on what the biggest difference is between like a counseling psychology PhD program and another psychology PhD program. Because I am interested in the culture aspect a lot, and I know I want to teach, and I know I want to do research, and I'm very into social psychology as well.
I guess I should probably take a stab at that. It's a great question. And, you know, there are differences. The other feature of counseling psych is they're more rooted in like more of a social justice advocacy perspective than traditional clinical psychology is, which is most closely aligned with a more medical model of understanding mental health. In terms of like, if the end goal is for you to have an academic position where you're teaching and doing research, I'm not sure that there's I mean, other than like there is a fork in the road, right? Where like counseling psych, some universities don't have counseling psych departments, other universities do. And so I think that it comes down at that point to like within the field, what pocket of culture are you most of an affinity towards, right? Like as an identity, as a counseling psychologist, does that better fit your professional and personal identity than a clinical psychologist? But I don't know if it's so much the degree designation as much as it is like what kind of professional networks that is then going to give you access to. So I would actually recommend, if you haven't already, do some research on universities where they have heavy representation of counseling psychology. I think it's Division 17 of the APA, which is dedicated to counseling psychology, might also be a good resource for you, because that's basically like the national professional hub for folks who identify as counseling psychologists. Division 12 is the Society for Clinical Psychology. So 12 and 7, I think it's 17, but you'll have to double check. So I would actually go to those organizations because that might be the most current source of information about career landscape. And I know for Division 12, they have, because I'm a part of Division 12, they have opportunities for students to be involved. And so I would imagine 17 is even better at that than 12 is. So check out the Society for Counseling Psychology and see if they have student opportunities. And I think that might plug you in to a network where then you can maybe even like identify people to talk to help you navigate some of those questions.
Thank you. That's super helpful. I actually just last week put a bunch of divisions in my shopping cart,
Okay.
and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about what the benefit of that, besides the emails of opportunities with the divisions? Like what else do you get with the membership?
Oh, and this is actually, I'm glad you asked the question, because I think this probably is helpful for all of you as you're thinking about your careers in psychology. You know, I think access to information is a big part of it, but more importantly, access to networking opportunities is really important. So, different divisions have different tiers of membership for students. Most of the time, student dues are going to be the cheapest. APA also has an association specifically for graduate student, APAGS. I think it's APAGS is the acronym. So I think it gives you access to networking, gives you access to mentorship, gives you access to information, publications, opportunities to get involved within APA. I think this is true of probably any field, but you shouldn't be surprised that in psychology, building relationships is a really important part of your professional growth and development. And I actually think psychology is pretty good as a field at being able to mentor and bring up students and new psychologists. So that's why I would recommend considering division membership. you know, 17 is I'm assuming, I keep saying that number because I'm assuming it's counseling, is pretty active. Division 35, Psychology of Women, is also really active. And in fact, one of our faculty members, Dr. Carrie Castañeda Sound, is going to be the incoming president of Division 35. So I would recommend that one if you have an interest in that. And then finally, Division 45, which has to do with diversity and ethnic minority issues, is also very big and very active. So those would be the ones that I would put on your radar if you're interested. And there's tons of divisions within APA. So if you have an interest that's not represented in those three, I'm pretty sure you'll find a division or two that fits your interest. And so I would definitely go to the APA website and take a look and look for opportunities. You can also network through your local psychological associations or your state psychological associations. So in California, we have the California Psych Association. Another one of our faculty, Dr. Tanya Wood, is currently the president of CPA. We have 2 past presidents of CPA on our faculty. And then we have Los Angeles County Psych Association. Obviously, I've been in LA my whole life, so my entire network is here. But I think almost every state in the country has a state psychological association. So if you're interested in local networking, or are thinking more about like local activity or local advocacy, then definitely check out your state and your local psych associations.
Thank you.
Thank you for that information. That was great. That's
Sure.
wonderful. We are coming really to the end of this hour. So any last question that anyone has? Any last one question? No? Okay, well, if not, I just want to end this here and thank everyone for joining us today. If you look in the chat, there is a link for a survey for this roundtable. And let's see, I also want to go ahead and share my screen with Sophia. Let me see.
I think, yeah, it's shared.
Okay.
Oops, no, not that. That was, okay, there you go.
There we go. So Sophia, I'll let you go through this information with everybody.
Yes. So you can submit your short evaluation either through clicking the link that Dr. Dorn posted, or you can also just take your camera from your phone and then put it on the QR code and it'll take you to there. And if you want to get involved, we have so many other events that we host aside from our Student Alumni Roundtable every year. So if you want to get involved with that, we would greatly appreciate it. We're looking for staff volunteers, faculty, alumni, students. Everyone is welcome, and that QR code is for to get involved with that. And if you want to contact us, our information is on there. Thank you so much. We greatly appreciate all your support, and I hope that you enjoyed this roundtable today. And thank you so much to our faculty and alum that were present today as our guest speakers.
And thank you to the students for all your wonderful questions, because this is wonderful. We really appreciate it. And I hope you got something out of this roundtable. And we want to have more of these roundtables so that throughout the year, you'll be able to get your questions answered, or if you have any other questions that may come up, you'll be able to have access to faculty and alumni, and maybe listen to some other questions that your fellow students may have, your peers may have. You may not have thought of the question, but because they did, you're getting your questions answered as well. So once again, the link to the survey is in the chat box, so you can click on that, or just what you just saw from the QR codes. And if there is nothing else, we thank you so much and look forward to seeing you at the next Student Alumni Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.